Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei and Rias Had Consolling Part 2. Chapter 3. After the game, the rating game commenced. Pieces from both sides dropped off the board until it came down to Issei and Sarayarg, who engaged in a ferocious bout of fisticuffs. In the end, it was the underdog Issei who emerged the winner. Later in the girls' infirmary, Kaneko, Akeno, Roswis and Zenobia lie awake in separate beds, recovering from their matches. They watch coverage of the rating gameplay on TV. Right now, Issei is on the ground, with Rias on top of him, after Sarayarg, wearing his golden lion armor, knocked him out. "Issei, you doofus," says Kaneko. "Seriously," chides Roswis. "Doesn't he realize how hard it was for Kiba, Zenobia and I to weaken Sarayarg for him?" "No kidding," says Zenobia. "He should have beaten him when he had the chance. But instead, he goes and lets Sarayarg don that armor, boosting his power tenfold. Now I feel like I got my ass kicked for nothing." Ara, but that's just like Issei," says Akeno. "Besides, you know you would have done the same, Zenobia." "Ugh, yeah, I suppose," says Zenobia. "Defeating a powerful opponent is far more rewarding when you defeat them at their peak strength. And our team ended up winning anyway, so I guess it all worked out," says Roswis. "Still, I wonder how we won. It doesn't feel real," says Kaneko. "Well, let's keep watching to find out," says Akeno. Just then, someone knocks on the door. Akeno pauses the TV. Ara, spoke too soon. "Come in." The door opens. Asia, Irina, Ravel, Kiba and Gasper, the last two having fully recovered, enter the room. "You did it." Cheers Irina. "Way to go, everybody," says Ravel. "I can heal anyone if they're still in pain," says Asia. "Thank you Asia. Would you mind?" asks Zenobia. "Not at all," says Asia, healing her stomach where Sarayarg kicked her. "Oh, and Gasper," says Zenobia. "You were very brave out there. I'm so proud of you." "Thanks, Zenobia," replies Gasper. "Huh? Wow, you guys are watching the game?" "Just the parts we weren't around to see," replies Kaneko. "Which, in my case, was pretty much everything." "Nonsense, Kaneko. You did very well," says Roswis. "Yes, you did. We all did," says Akeno. "By the way, where's Rias?" "She's handling the post-game press conference at the moment," says Kiba. Ara, I'm sure she's just loving that," says Akeno. Irina gestures to the TV. Ooh. This is the best part. Who's got the remote?" Akeno, hit play. "Hit play. The best part, huh? Is Issei about to destroy Sarayarg?" asks Akeno. "Way better than that," says Ravel. "Much better," says Asia. The others look at them with confusion. With that, Akeno hits play and the video resumes. Issei transforms into his queen form, Cardinal Crimson promotion. And then, he confesses his love for Rias in front of the entire underworld. Akeno, Kaneko, Zenobia, Roswis, Kiba and Gasper watch in surprise. Asia, Irina and Ravel, having already witnessed Issei's confession, are just as joyful to witness it again. Afterwards, Issei and Sarayarg squared off in an all-out brawl until the last man standing was the Red Dragon Emperor. "Well, how about that," says Roswis. "Issei, you're so cool," says Gasper. "Nicely done, bro," says Kiba. "I'm so happy," says Irina. "It's like my childhood friend was blessed with a divine miracle." Ravel nudges Kaneko. "Looks like everything got sorted, huh?" "Word," replies Kaneko. While everyone's happy Issei won, it's clear they're more elated over his confession. "So he actually confessed? Like for real?" asks Zenobia. "For real," says Asia. "Wait, don't tell me. Are she and Issei together now?" asks Zenobia. "Well, not just yet," replies Asia. "Issei's still recovering and Rias is still dealing with the conference. They haven't had a moment alone since the game ended." Akeno gets out of bed. "In that case, I better get going. As Ria's queen, I can fill in during the conference. After all, the man she loves just admitted he loves her back. I can't imagine how overwhelmed she must feel. And out of respect, we shouldn't overwhelm her any further." "What do you mean, Akeno?" asks Gasper. "What she means, Gaspy, is that we shouldn't mention the confession to Rias," says Kaneko. "Or to Issei for that matter," says Kiba. "He's probably feeling a little overwhelmed himself." "Yeah," says Irina. "I'm sure he's all like, did I seriously just say that? What was I thinking?" Or something like that, Ravel folds her arms. "Well, that's what you get when you announce your love to the whole underworld. Even though it was truly romantic. Like something out of a fairy tale," she says whilst blushing. "Yes, it was," says Asia. "Issei, I'm so proud." Ara, then we're all agreed," says Akeno. Soon as Issei and Rias talk it out, mum's the word on the confession. "And don't forget, once we get back, the school festival's on." Zenobia sighs. "Having to work after such an intense battle. That's just hell." Everyone laughs at her tasteless pun. Later in the conference hall, Rias stands alone at a podium, bombarded by microphones, flashing cameras and shouting reporters. "Princess Gremory, what do you have to say about the game?" asks a male reporter. Rias speaks with the utmost confidence and nobility. I just want everyone watching to know that this victory couldn't have been achieved without the joint efforts of my loving family. I am very proud of my servants, and today, I consider myself the luckiest devil in the underworld. And does that have anything to do with the Red Dragon Emperor? Asks a female reporter. During the game, he said he was in love with you. Care to comment? Rias blushes madly and begins to sweat. Her noble exterior cracks under the pressure. She feels a tap on her shoulder and turns to see Akeno. My sincerest apologies, ladies and gentlemen, says Akeno. That's all the questions my dear master has time for today, but I'd be happy to answer any more in her stead. The reporters rise from their chairs, trying to ambush Rias with more photos and questions. But Akeno keeps them at bay while Rias flees the scene. Thanks, girl, whispers Rias, smiling. Do what you gotta do, whispers Akeno, smiling back. While Akeno addresses the crowd of nosy reporters, Rias disappears into the waiting room, shutting the door behind her. Nothing but 2 sofas, a couple mirrors on the wall, and a mini fridge full of bottled drinks in the corner. Rias walks in between the sofas and exhales in relief, happy to be free of the reporters. It's quiet. She's all alone and remains completely still. A few seconds pass by. Her legs start shaking. A few more seconds. Her shoulders tremble. A few more seconds. A single tear cascades down her cheek. "Aya!" screams Rias, not out of fear, but joy. Pure, unadulterated joy. She drops on the nearest sofa, covers her face with a pillow, and kicks her legs repeatedly against the cushions. Her face is the brightest shade of red and bears the widest smile she's ever had in her life. He loves me. He loves me. She yells, breaking into a fit of happy crying. Wait, she thinks. Suddenly, all of reality comes crashing down on her. She sits up and calms herself down. Her smile disappears and her eyes fill with worry. Did he mean it? She thinks. This is Issei I'm talking about. He would carelessly say something that grandiose during the middle of a fight. I know I promised myself I'd speak to him after the game, but I didn't think he'd go and confess to me during it. How can I possibly face him now? What if he actually didn't mean it? What if he was just in the heat of the moment and it got to him? What if he only said those things to sound cool? Knowing him, that is something he would absolutely do. And then he'd apologize to me for embarrassing me like that, all the while calling me president. And then things between us would be over, for good. I'd live the rest of my life as his friend while the other girls get to live as his lovers. I don't want that. My darling Issei, what you said made me so happy and I want to believe you were telling the truth. But how can I? All this time, you never said my name and always treated me as just your master. Now all of a sudden, you love me as a woman. I want to believe you. I want to believe you so badly, but what if I'm wrong? I know I have to face you, but I don't want to get my heart broken. Gosh, I'm such a hypocrite. Issei's doubted my feelings for the longest time, now here I am, doubting his. I know this isn't fair to him, he just poured his heart out to me and I should talk to him, especially since he won the game. But I just don't have the courage. Oh, Issei. What am I supposed to do? Chapter 4 After the festival, the school festival goes off without a hitch. Night has fallen and the majority of the student body are outside dancing around the bonfire. Meanwhile, the orc members are in the clubhouse, cleaning up their cafe event. Issei and Asia wash the dishes while the others stack the furniture and sweep the floors. Man, that was some festival, says Issei. It sure was, says Asia. And I'm sure next year's will be even better. Hey, you guys, says Gasper. I just realized I haven't seen Rias for a while. Now that you mention it, you're right, says Irina. Well, she has been super busy, what with organizing this event right after the game, says Zenobia. That's a king for ya, says Kaneko. True, says Kiba. I'm sure she's just taking a moment to catch her breath. Well, she certainly deserves it, says Roswis. Indeed, she does, says Akeno. She's done so much for us. What do you all say we get this done before she gets back? That way, we can enjoy the rest of the festival together. Yeah, shouts everyone in unison. With that, everyone puts more backbone into their work. Everyone except Issei. He takes a breath, sets the dishes down and removes his apron. Hey Asia. Yes? Asks Asia. Sorry, but would you mind if I stepped out for a bit? Asks Issei. Oh, sure, no worries, says Asia. Thanks. I owe you one, says Issei. As he leaves the room, Asia watches him go. Soon enough, everyone stops what they're doing and looks towards the door Issei just walked out of, all sharing the same idea. They all exchange looks. Asia turns to Akeno. Do you think? I sure do, she replies with a big smile. Ravel enters the room with a cart full of cakes and teas. Hey, guys, I got everything ready. Everyone shoots their sparkling eyes and bright smiles at her. What's going on? She asks, feeling awkward. Kaneko takes her hand. Come on. She leads Ravel out the door. Everyone else chases after them. Moments later, Issei enters the clubroom to speak with Rias in private. The second the double doors close behind him, Akeno and the others huddle around them, eavesdropping. Should we really be doing this, you guys? Whispers Ravel. Yeah, whispers Gasper. It seems kinda wrong to impose on them like this. We were here when Issei screwed up, whispers Kaneko. We should be here to see him make it right. Or in this case, hear him make it right, whispers Kiba. Besides, whispers Zenobia. When it comes to us girls, this is just as big a moment for us as it is for Rias. Please, Lord, prays Irina. Give my childhood friend the courage to speak from his heart. So long as they keep it PG-13, whispers Roswis. That's the only reason I came. Ara, you're so funny, Roswis, teases Akeno, not buying it. Listen, whispers Asia. Everyone leans closer against the doors, any second now, they're gonna burst open. Nothing but silence. The anticipation is eating them alive. Inside the clubroom, Rias stands by the desk while Issei stands by the window. The atmosphere is stiff and awkward. I should say something to him, thinks Rias. But what? Should I just ask him if he really meant what he said at the game? Should I ask him again what I am to him? What if he calls me president again? Maybe I should confess to him. Oh, I don't know. I hate this. I want to clear the air and make up with him so badly, but how? Rias, yells Issei. Her mind goes blank and she spins around to face Issei, completely shocked. Outside, everyone else is equally shocked. I want to protect you, says Issei. I want to protect you for the rest of my life. I love you. I've been in love with you for a long time. Rias, I love you. Outside, everyone smiles. Inside, Rias is frozen and speechless from Issei's confession. He meant it, she thinks. And he's loved me for a long time. Me as Rias, not just as his master. Then he's wanted to confess and say my name all this time, but just didn't believe I felt the same. Which means he was afraid of me the most because he loves me the most. I don't understand that, but it makes some sort of sense. Oh, Issei. You're so clueless. You should have told me you were hurting over Rainer. You shouldn't have believed I'd hurt you like she did. I made it abundantly clear how I felt about you. True, I never used words, but if you just took a second to think about my feelings, you'd know they were real and no. No, I'm just as stupid. I should have known Rainer was still hurting him. I should have known that just because he never said my name doesn't mean he never loved me. I should have just talked to him about my insecurities. He may be clueless, but his heart was always in the right place. She starts shedding lots of tears. He loves me. Issei loves me. Outside, the others are practically hugging the door, listening in earnest. Inside, Issei becomes worried over seeing Rias cry. I'm okay. It's just, I'm so happy, she says. You finally called me by name. I waited for this. I waited so very long. But I didn't have the courage to tell you, so I was afraid it'd never happen. But all that stuff you said at the game, it made me so happy. I didn't think you'd say it then. I was about to cry in the middle of a match. You drive me crazy, you know that. So, does that mean do you feel the same way? Asks Issei. Oh, Issei, you poor stupid boy, whispers Ravel. He's doing his best, whispers Kaneko. Issei, I love you, replies Rias. I love you more than anyone else. Their words become too much for everyone outside, especially Zenobia, who doesn't notice that she's shoving Irina to get closer to the doors. Hey, Zenobia, don't push, says Irina. Their struggle causes the doors to burst open, and everyone screams as they fall inside the clubroom, ruining the romantic atmosphere between Issei and Rias. Akeno and the others tried to play off the eavesdropping as best they could by congratulating the new couple and claiming the real fight for Issei had begun. Issei and Rias weren't having it, and they lashed out at the group for peeping on their special moment. But in good old Gremory fashion, it was Issei who hilariously took the blame for confessing somewhere not secluded enough. Wanting to end the night on a high note, the others left Issei and Rias alone so they could resume their moment. Rias, says Issei. Issei, says Rias. They lean their faces closer and overlap their lips. They've kissed so many times in the past, but this one leaves them all behind, their first real, true kiss as a couple. Then they break away, eyes sparkling, faces flushed. They wrap their arms around each other and embrace. They close their eyes and smile, enjoying the warmth of one another, joyful over what the future will bring them. Hey, will you come with me? She asks. Where? He asks. At the Hayato residence, the Issei not permitted sign is still taped on the door of Issei's bedroom. A magic circle appears on the hallway floor. Issei and Rias materialize right outside the door. Issei looks at the sign with somber eyes. You wanted to come here? Rias gives him a big smile and rips the sign off the door. Then she tears it up over and over again, as if she's trying to erase ever making it. Using her magic, she sets all the torn pieces on fire, incinerating them into nothing but cinders. Issei watches in amazement and confusion. Then Rias grabs his hand and yanks him into the bedroom without a word. "Hey, Rias," starts Issei before she pushes him onto the bed. "What's going on, eh?" Rias strips herself naked and activates a magic communicator. "Akeno, I've taken Issei home. Sorry, but we'll be MIA for the rest of the night." Ara, that's fine," says Akeno. "But fair warning, he's yours just for tonight. Tomorrow morning, it's open season." "Bring it on," says Rias, deactivating the communication. Issei is so aroused by her body, he covers his nose so as not to soak the bed with his nosebleed. Rias. "Issei," she says, smiling. "Issei." She squeals, pouncing him on the bed. Before he can react, she begins stripping him. Whoa, he says, unable to fight back. Rias has been bold before, but now she's reached a whole new level of thirst. Within seconds, she strips Issei down to his boxers and embraces him. "Issei, hold me," she says. Gone is her master aura, now she acts like a girl her age. Innocent, childish, and crazy for the boy she loves. As for Issei, her sweet words and nude body have an even greater impact on him than before. He moans, overwhelmed. She cuddles with him. "Issei, it feels like forever since you and I last slept together. Hold me gently." Issei gulps, he can't take it anymore. He wraps his arms around Rias, holds her close and surrenders to the euphoria. "Rias, I've missed you. I've missed you too, so very much," she says. The two kiss again, melting into the passion. Rias becomes so excited, she works her hand down to Issei's boxers. But she stops when she looks at his eyes and sees the faintest hint of fear deep within them. He's too flustered to speak, but he doesn't have to. Oh, no. He's still scared, thinks Rias. "Damn you, Rainer. How dare you hurt my Issei. If I could, I'd bring you back and kill you all over again. I'm such a coward," he says. "I'm sorry, Rias." Rias buries his face in between her breasts like she always does. "You're the bravest boy I've ever met. And you have nothing to be sorry for. To be honest, I'm not ready myself. I guess I got carried away because I'm just so happy right now. In fact, this is the happiest I've ever felt in my life." "Yeah. Same here," he says. "I'm sorry, Issei," she says. "This is the third time I've practically forced you to make love to me. I'm so sorry." "Rias," he says. "It's okay," she says. "We can take it slow for now. And when we're both ready, we can go from there. Sound good?" "Thank you, Rias Gremory," he says. Just then, he rolls atop Rias. She's flustered by his sudden boldness and smiles. He leans down and kisses her again. "I love you, Issei," she says. "And I love you too," he says. "Thank you," she says with misty eyes. The two lovers hold each other as they drift off to sleep. Chapter 5 End of session. Back in the Orc Clubroom, Issei and the others finish telling their sides of the story to Azazel and Roswis. "And that's pretty much everything," says Issei. Neither Roswis nor Azazel say anything, the former is amazed by the story, while the latter stares with a blank expression. Suddenly, he bursts into a fit of howling laughter. "Oh, man, Issei," says Azazel, laughing so hard he can't get the words out. "I knew you were an idiot, but that was just ha ha ha." Issei lowers his head and slumps his shoulders in embarrassment. Rias takes his hand. "Azazel," Issei learned his lesson. As did we all. "Don't scold him any further or you'll have hell to pay." "I'm sorry, you're right," says Azazel, pulling himself together. "Okay, I think I got the gist of it. The good news is it seems that not only Issei, but all of you learned from this. That being said, I do believe there are a few apologies in order. Starting with one from me to you, Issei." What are you apologizing for?" asks Issei. "Rainer was one of my underlings," replies Azazel. "The pain she caused you was greater than any of us imagined and nobody noticed. As your mentor, I of all people should have seen the signs. I am deeply sorry for what she did to you and for not helping you through it." "Wow. Thanks, Azazel," says Issei. "That being said, Issei, shame on you," says Azazel. "Wait, what?" asks Issei. "What Rainer did to you, that isn't your fault," says Azazel. "Believing that Rias would do the same, that is. She's the one who brought you back to life, killed Rainer on your behalf, and helped you more than anyone else into becoming the Red Dragon Emperor, the hero of the underworld. To dismiss the one who helped you attain such victories, the one you happen to love, as merely your master, what is wrong with you? As a result, you hurt her feelings and made her cry. Even if you didn't mean to, it's only natural she and everyone else got mad at you." I know," says Issei. "No, Issei, I don't think you do," says Azazel. "The fact is you're an idiot. And you were an idiot even before you met Rainer, which means we can only blame her for so much. And with her dead, we can hardly blame her now. Issei, she can't hurt you anymore. But you allowed her to keep hurting you by holding on to the pain she caused you, instead of letting it go, and that clouded your understanding of Ria's feelings. Look, we get that you were afraid, but even so, you had nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to protect yourself from. All that time you spent scared of Rias, you could have spent dating her. Had you continued being scared of her, it would have destroyed the entire dynamic of the Gremory household. Not to mention, you could kiss your harem king dream goodbye. I mean, how do you expect a bunch of girls to love you if you couldn't even confess to the girl you love? Enough, Azazel, says Rias. We need to have this out, Rias, says Azazel. Put everything on the table, get it all out of our systems, that sort of thing. Didn't we all just do that? States Akeno. Eyes, come on, says Azazel. You all need to understand how serious this is. I don't want to discuss this nonsense either, believe me. But neither do I want to have to come back to it later because we didn't sort it all out now. So please, let's just get it over with. If I may, says Roswis. I haven't been in this country very long. Is calling someone by name really that big a deal? Weren't you supposed to be my assistant? Teases Azazel. Never mind. Yes, here in Japan, it's a huge deal. Calling someone by their first name is considered disrespectful unless you're very close with said someone. But Issei is close with Rias, says Roswis. That's true, says Azazel. Except when Issei first joined Ria's household, she told him to refer to her as president. So you could argue Issei was just doing as he was told. But then, Rias had to go and fall in love with him and she wanted him to say her name willingly. But instead of just telling him that, she expected him to figure it out on his own. Or at the very least, she hoped he'd say it himself, but he never did. Issei remained silent. Calling someone by name shows a degree of intimacy, says Azazel. Rias was under the impression that Issei was willing to have that with the others, but not with her. She felt like he was treating her like a stranger, whereas he treated the others like friends. Because you were afraid of her, weren't you, Issei? Asks Roswis. You were so afraid of getting hurt again that you kept a distance between Rias and yourself by not saying her name. You wanted to, but didn't believe she wanted you to. You wanted to get closer to her, but feared doing so would push her away. So calling her president was your way of protecting yourself without realizing it. A subconscious defense mechanism. Well, says Issei. See? I knew you had it in you, my esteemed assistant, teases Azazel. Please be serious, sighs Roswis. But back to the matter at hand, says Azazel. Ironically, Issei refusing to get closer to Rias is what pushed her away. And if you hadn't confessed when you did, Issei, the rift between you and Rias would have continued to widen. The emotional strain would have been too much for her and she'd start acting rashly. As king, her decisions would have affected the others and everything would fall apart. Like I said, the entire dynamic of the household would be ruined. You guys know the rest of us are still here, right? Asks Irina. This is group therapy. Feels more like a roast, says Zenobia. Azazel, barks Rias. Right. Time for some actual counseling, says Azazel. Okay, first question for you, Rias. I get why you were pissed at Issei after the sauna, but would you have to go and call him out in front of the others? Don't you think that was selfish and unfair to him? Rias lowers her head in shame. Hey, shut it, dude. Shouts Issei. I'm not mad about that. Besides, when I called her president that time, the others saw me do it. And because of that, they were able to figure out my trauma over Rainer. In other words, yeah, it sucked being called out. But it kind of had to happen. Because I honestly don't know if I was ever gonna tell them about Rainer myself. Fair enough, says Azazel. But then again, Rias never figured it out herself. She was there that day too. Like I said, Rias, you were the one who killed Rainer. As Issei's master, you should have figured it out first. Hell, you should have been the first in line to comfort him. But you didn't. Not only that, but you kept avoiding Issei. As if he wasn't suffering enough already. And what's worse, you didn't make any attempt to mend your relationship with him. I get that you were sad and he was the one who screwed things up. But was it really right to dump all the responsibility of fixing your relationship on him? Okay, yes. You're right. Yells Rias. You're right, she says. It was wrong and unfair of me to call Issei out like that. But I just couldn't take it anymore. I felt like Issei kept getting closer to everyone else while I was being left behind. I thought given the amount of effort I put in, the amount of affection I showed him, he'd realize my feelings for sure, but he never did. I even tried to make passionate love to him, and that wasn't enough. Seeing as how I went that far, I didn't think I had to tell him how I felt. And I know I should have been the bigger person and just spoken to him afterwards. I felt horrible for not knowing about Rainer and I wanted to make up with him. But I was scared, okay. I was scared that if I did, Issei would call me president again. I was scared that we'd reconcile and go back to being friends, but we'd never become anything more. In other words, says Azazel. Your plan was to avoid Issei because you didn't want to face the possibility that you'd never become his lover. My plan was talk to him, says Rias. But I wanted to get the game out of the way first. I was already in a bad place. If I spoke to Issei before the game and he said we were just master and servant for the third time, I would have been devastated. I would have shut down and we would have lost the game for sure. And there was so much riding on us to win, so I thought I should just wait. I didn't want to leave things as they were, but I just didn't know what else to do. Putting your personal feelings aside to focus on the game, I get that, says Azazel. Even so, Issei suffered a grave trauma. He wasn't emotionally ready to tell you how he felt. Instead of respecting that, you judged him for it. Were you going to just keep avoiding him until he confessed and said your name? What if he hadn't? Azazel, says Roswis. You have to remember, she's still just a teenage girl. First love, hormones and such. It's okay, Roswis, says Rias, taking a breath. Yes, my behavior was selfish, immature and cold. I shouldn't have treated Issei like that, especially after learning he was suffering. Rias, says Issei. She looks at him while speaking to Azazel. After the game, I would have spoken to Issei. I would have talked everything out with him, starting with Rainer. You would have, huh? Asks Azazel. Would you have confessed your feelings to him? No, replies Rias. That would have forced him to respond. I've done that enough to him and I knew he wasn't ready. It's just, with everything else I've done, all the flirting and kisses, I thought I didn't have to confess. I thought I made my feelings so obvious. You did, Rias, says Issei. I'm just an idiot for not noticing. Rias smiles and takes his other hand in her lap. So you were going to talk to him, huh? Asks Azazel. Then why didn't you? After the game, you kept avoiding him as usual. Because I didn't think he was gonna confess to me at the game, says Rias. The man I chose just told the whole underworld he chooses me too. How would you react? Me? Well, I'd go leaping for joy and running into his arms, teases Azazel. But your reaction was also understandable. You were so happy, you froze on the battlefield and left Issei to fight Sarajevo by himself. But it all worked out, so there's that. But back to the confession, well you were initially happy, you weren't entirely sure if he was telling the truth, right? And you were terrified to find out if he wasn't. I've been insecure about men my entire life, says Rias. They've only ever wanted me for my family name. To them, I'm either the Gremory princess or the Devil King's sister. I wanted to be loved because I'm Rias, not because of some title. That's the whole reason I came to Japan and enrolled in a normal high school in the first place. I was scared that Issei thought the same. I was afraid that to him, I really was just the president of the occult research club. Just another title. What's more, he told me long ago that he did like me as just Rias. That was when I first developed feelings for him. But even though he said that, even though he saw me as Rias, he would never call me Rias. That's because you ordered him to call you president, says Azazel. And you know how much of an idiot he is. He was never gonna figure out that you wanted him to say your name. And just because he never did doesn't mean he was never in love with you. Hey, says Issei. Azazel ignores him, still focused on Rias. You had every opportunity to tell him to stop calling you president. Again, I didn't want to force anything on Issei, says Rias. If I had just told him to say my name, he'd only do so because I told him to. I wanted him to call me by name because he wanted to. Am I so selfish for wanting just that? No, Rias, of course not, says Roswis. If Issei had called you by name in the sauna or right here in the clubroom when you called him out, would that have been enough? Asks Azazel. Yes, replies Rias. He didn't have to confess to me, even though I'm beyond happy he did. I just wanted to know where I stood with him. I wanted him to treat me as an equal, not just a superior. I know I'm his master, but I won't always be. When that day comes, I still want to stay by his side. But I felt like he didn't want the same because of my title. And that made me sad, angry and hurt. Not to mention, scared. I was scared that if he hadn't called me by my name by now, he never would. And I wanted to make things right, of course I did, but I just didn't know how, okay. Oh, Issei, I'm so sorry. It's okay, Rias, says Issei. You've got nothing to apologize for. No, I do. I really do, says Rias. And she's not the only one, says Azazel. Next question is for the rest of you. And here I thought we were invisible, criticizes Kaneko. You've all known for some time that Issei loved Rias, says Azazel. So why, pray tell, didn't any of you just pull him aside at one point and say something like, hey, Issei, you know Rias likes you more than you think, right? It wasn't any of our business, Azazel, says Kiba. Yes, says Akeno. We knew how Issei felt, but like Rias said, we wanted to respect his decision and not force him to do anything. That's right, says Asia. For their love to grow naturally, Issei had to tell Rias himself. We could only intervene when it was necessary. Word, says Kaneko. As scared as Issei was, that fear was something he'd have to overcome on his own. And none of us, not even Rias, could do it for him. It was the healthiest thing for him and he became stronger because of it. And if he couldn't do it, we'd be there for him, says Gasper. If he asked us for help, we'd do it in a heartbeat. We didn't want to impede his growth, says Zenobia. That's why we stayed out of the way. Yeah, and it's not like we deserted him, says Irina. We all love Issei immensely and we knew he had it in him to mature. Ravel raises her hand. For the record, if I were a part of this group, I would have done the same. Issei's amazing. We knew he could do it. You guys, says Issei, grateful. Everyone smiles at him. Well said, says Azazel. Okay, last but not least, Issei. Uh-oh, says Issei. First off, you said you were never going to tell anyone you were hurting over Rainer's betrayal. Why? Asks Azazel. Azazel, starts Rias. He's a big boy, Rias. He can answer for himself, says Azazel. Everyone looks to Issei with bated breath while he stares at the floor. I hated her, says Issei. I hated her so much. All my life, I've chased after girls. Then one suddenly showed up, a sweet hot tie no less, and asked me to be her boyfriend. For one day, I felt what it was like to be loved. But then she murdered me. His words hang in the air for a moment. When she died, I thought I'd forget about her, he continues. I thought over time, she'd just fade away. And I thought if I told anyone she hadn't, you'd be bringing her back into your life, says Roswis. But she never left, Issei, says Azazel. Whether you like it or not, she is always going to be a part of your life. Need I remind you, you're not the only one in this room with a painful past. You have to learn to live with it. How? Asks Issei. By surrounding yourself with people who love you. And you have plenty to go around, says Azazel, gesturing to everyone in the room. But you didn't believe in them. That's why they got upset, especially Rias, she says. What do you want me to say? Asks Issei. Have you ever known Rias to be anything like Rainer? Asks Azazel. No. No frickin' way. Shouts Issei. Then why were you so afraid of her? Asks Azazel. You knew Rainer for all of one day, you've known Rias for half a year. How could you possibly believe she'd hurt you like Rainer did? You honestly, seriously didn't think that she was in love with you? What about all the times she's kissed you, slept with you, or any other kinky stuff she's done? Issei takes a deep breath. When I first became a devil, I learned the Gremory household was different from other peerages because they treated their servants with love, like family members. I thought Rias had different ways of displaying her affection to us. For me, since I'm a super perv, I figured all the times she kissed me or slept with me was just her way of showing gratitude for all that I've done. I didn't think she meant any of that stuff romantically. I thought she was just using me for practice until she found the one she truly loved. I honestly have no response to that, says Azazel. I told you, I've been chasing girls my whole life and they've always ostracized me, says Issei. Well, for good reason. Like you said, you're a super perv, jokes Azazel. Exactly. Shouts Issei, standing up. So for Rias Gremory to actually love me? The smartest, most beautiful girl in the whole school. The elegant and powerful leader of the Gremory household. The most perfect woman I've ever met. Her words make Rias blush and the others impressed. Issei sits back down. It was too good to be true. I wanted to believe she loved me so badly. But I thought that as long as I remained her pawn, it was a pipe dream. Issei, says Rias. But it wasn't a pipe dream, Issei, says Azazel. She may be all those things, but she's still just a girl. A regular person with feelings and longings for love, no different from yourself. She really has been in love with you all this time, but because you believed yourself inferior to her, you decided it wasn't true. Where do you get off deciding someone else's feelings for them? I didn't mean to, says Issei. Let's stay on track, chimes in Roswis. Look, Issei, your loyalty to Rias is admirable. But that doesn't mean you always have to be just master and servant. Take the people in this room. We're all loyal servants too, but that's not all we are to Rias. She considers us brothers and sisters, and we all think of her as a sister as well. Yeah, I know that, says Issei. I just wanted to be her lover, not a brother. But all that talk about family made me think it wasn't okay. Of course, it was, Issei, says Roswis. It's okay for a servant to want that kind of relationship with their master. In fact, it's happened in a couple other peerages. Uncommon. Sure, but not impossible. Really? Asks Issei. Let me ask you this, Issei, says Azazel. Were you ever going to confess to Rias and call her by name? Hell yeah, I was, says Issei. You were? Asks Rias. Soon as I became a high-class devil, says Issei. Rias, I wanted to stand on equal footing with you. But as long as I was your pawn, I didn't think I was good enough for you. So I wanted to get stronger. Strong enough to defeat Saraerg, Vali, all of them. Strong enough to lead Asia and Zenobia as my own servants. Strong enough for you to see me as a man, not just someone you saved. But Issei, you have always been good enough, says Rias. Yes, I may have treated you as my pawn, but I also did everything I could to also treat you as a man. Because I've always seen you as one. And I have always loved you as one. Why you did? Asks Issei. That's right, Issei, says Azazel. And it still may be a few years before you become a high-class devil. Were you planning to keep Rias waiting that long? Well, replies Issei. I confessed to her during the game, didn't I? Yes, you did, says Azazel. But was that because you wanted to? Or were you just trying to get back into her good graces after you screwed things up? Of course, I wanted to confess to her, says Issei. I've wanted to confess and say her name for a long time. Then why didn't you speak to her after the game? Asks Azazel. Would you wait until after the festival to confess for real? Because I thought she was mad at me, says Issei. Well, matter. After all, I already hurt her feelings without realizing it twice. Then during the game, I go and embarrass her in front of the whole underworld. I can't imagine how she may have felt. Plus, we had the festival to deal with. There wasn't any time for us to be alone, alright. Okay, I'll give you that, says Azazel. Hey, Drake, you still there? The green light in Issei's left arm glows. I'm always here, Governor General, answers Drake. Oh, well, look who decided to show up, jokes Issei, causing the others to giggle. Just out of curiosity, but don't you have anything to say? Asks Azazel. Your partner was in a low place. Couldn't you have given him some kind of pep talk? As the others already explained, my involvement would have affected Issei's growth, replies Drake. Encouraging words can only go so far, action is the best solution. My sole duty is to help Issei become the Red Dragon Emperor. Becoming a harem king is his own dream. Besides, it's not like he ever came to me for advice regarding his trauma. But of course, if he had, I wouldn't have hesitated to help. After all, I am stuck with him forever. Gee, thanks, says Issei, sarcastically. If there's nothing else, I'm going back to sleep, says Drake. The light in Issei's arm diminishes. Azazel stands up. Well, there you have it. See, everyone. Don't you all feel better now? Issei, Rias and the others sigh in annoyance. Okay, Azazel. I think that's enough, says another voice. Everyone turns to see a magic circle on the floor. Within seconds, Venelana appears. Hello, everyone, she says. Everyone except Azazel stares at her in bewilderment. Lady Venelana, how kind of you to join us, says Azazel. Mother? What are you doing here? Asks Rias, bolting up. I came to offer my sincerest apologies to both you and Issei, dear, replies Venelana. You say sorry to us? Asks Issei, standing up. Indeed, says Venelana. If we're being frank, this whole debacle was my fault. Issei, I was the one who asked you to start thinking of my daughter as a woman without knowing about your sorrowful past. And Rias, I pressured you into getting closer to Issei when you were unaware of his trauma yourself. As lady of the house, it's my duty to find you a suitor and continue our legacy. I respected your decision to be with Issei, but I became weary that things weren't progressing between you two. There are hundreds of suitors seeking your hand, just as Riser did. And even though they may not do so out of love as you prefer, a marriage between them and the Gremory princess would greatly benefit the underworld. And so, I believe the sooner you became Issei's lover, the better it would be for everyone. I was acting as Lady Gremory when I should have been acting as a caring mother. I pushed you both into deepening your relationship when neither of you were ready. As a result, you almost lost each other. Rias, Issei, I am truly, deeply sorry. Oh, mother, says Rias, smiling. It's all good, President's mom, says Issei. Oh, crap. I mean, I am mother. Everyone in the room, especially Venelana, appears impressed. Oh, Issei, hearing you say that makes me gush, squeals Venelana, touching her red cheek. Not bad, Issei, says Azazel. Now to wrap up the session, is there anything you want to say to Rias? Issei feels embarrassed with so many people watching. But he steels himself and faces Rias with confidence. Rias, he starts. I really have been in love with you since we met. But I thought that as long as I remained your pawn, we could only be master and servant. That's why I kept being formal and called you president. If I called you by name, I thought you'd get mad at me. Then I'd know for sure that you didn't love me, and I couldn't bear that. So my plan was to become a high-class devil on par with you. Then I'd call you by name and tell you how I feel. I absolutely wanted to say those things sooner, but I didn't believe you felt the same. I didn't have confidence in myself and I didn't want to get my hopes up. So I kept you at arm's length and ended up hurting you without even knowing it. I realize now that there was never any reason to be afraid and I feel so stupid for that. But thanks to the others and upon accepting my own feelings, I realized I didn't want to wait anymore. Rias, I didn't confess to you because I was just trying to make things right between us. Or because I wanted to get over the pain Rainer caused me. Or even because it would help me get closer to becoming a harem king. I confessed to you because I love you. And I couldn't very well say, I love you, President. But I really didn't know I could have just called you by name without having to confess. I honestly thought you'd hate me if I made any attempt to get closer to you. You're a remarkable woman and I'm just an idiot. A worthless piece of shit. A brainless dildo. The most pathetic and dumbest guy in the world. His words cause Rias, Asia, Akeno, Kaneko, Kiba, Gasper, Zenobia and Arena to shed tears of regret for saying those hurtful things to him. Even Ravel starts crying, having witnessed the incident. Azazel, Roswis and Venelana watch with sorrowful expressions. "I'm sorry, Rias," cries Issei. Azazel's right. "I was so afraid of getting hurt again that I ended up hurting you. I swear I didn't mean to. I don't want to hurt you, not now or ever again. I'm sorry I dismissed your feelings like they were nothing. I'm sorry I never called you by name. I'm sorry I ever compared you to that fallen angel bitch. I'm sorry I made you wait so long. I'm sorry for everything," he says, crying his eyes out. Rias runs to Issei and hugs him for all he's worth, surprising him. "Oh, Issei. My darling. My sweet precious brave beloved darling," she says as lots of tears cascade down her face. "I'm the one who's sorry. After everything you've done for me, I should have known how you felt. I should have known you were still hurting over Rainer. And when you needed me I wasn't there for you. I was so caught up with my own feelings that I didn't bother to consider yours. I became insecure over our relationship. Instead of talking to you about it, I acted irrationally and came after you in the sauna. I never should have done that. I never should have put you on the spot and made you out to be the bad guy in front of everyone. I never should have said those awful things and avoided you. You were suffering enough as is, and I only made it worse. Please understand, I was angry. But even more than that, I was scared and sad. I felt like I was losing you. I was worried that if you hadn't said my name by now, you never would. And at one point, I let myself think I'd have to let you go. I thought it would be for the best for both of us and that terrified me. I've never been so terrified of anything in my life. I understand you were terrified too, but I would never ever hurt you. And I can't tell you how happy you made me, how alive and blessed I felt when you finally told me how you felt. I love you so much, Issei, and I am so proud of you. You overcame your pain all on your own and you found the courage to tell me how you feel. I'm the coward. I didn't have the courage to face you. To just ask you to call me by name. To tell you how much you mean to me. Instead, I abandoned you. Oh, Issei, forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Issei wraps his arms around her. Rias. The two lovers embrace, cry and sink to the floor while the others watch. Azazel watches them with a smile. Meanwhile, Asia, Akeno, Kaneko, Kiba, Gasper, Zenobia, Irina, Ravel, Roswis and Venelana watch with tears of joy streaming from their eyes. "I'm sorry, Rias," says Issei. "It's okay," says Rias. I just, he starts. "Hey, none of that matters anymore," she says, holding his face with both hands. "We're together now. We can spend the rest of our lives making new and happy memories. In fact, let's make so many, we'll forget any of this ever happened. We're going to be okay." Through his tears, Issei manages to muster a smile. Rias smiles back. "I love you, Issei," she says. "Do you hear me? I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you too, Rias," he says. "And I promise, from now on, I won't hide anything from you. I'll believe in myself more. I'll work hard to learn more about your feelings and not just your banging bod. And I'll." Rias presses her finger to his lips. "Stop talking." They lean in close and kiss with heartfelt passion. Everyone around them stands up, cheers and applauds. Issei and Rias break away, flushed with embarrassment, they'd completely forgotten that they're not alone. "Congratulations, Issei, Rias," says Azazel. "Ah, come here, you two," says Akeno, tackling Issei and Rias to the floor. "Hey, don't forget me," says Asia, hugging them as well. "Ooh, group hug." Cheers Irina. Then she, Zenobia, Gasper and Kiba join in the hug. Kaneko pulls Ravel along and they join in as well. They all fall to their knees and group hug on the floor. My, such youthful energy. "I want in," says Venelana, joining the group hug as well. And that brings this group therapy session to a close. "Well then, shall we?" says Azazel, taking Roswis by the hand. "Wait, Azazel, eh?" says Roswis as she's yanked into the group hug. Everyone laughs and hugs on the floor. One big happy family. And in the center of it all, Issei and Rias. They smile lovingly at each other, touch their foreheads together, and hold hands. All's well that ends well. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video.